You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike and here, host, back with another episode. Excited to bring you, I think, our first ever pickleball professional athlete today on the podcast. Everyone knows what pickleball is. I think we've talked about it with previous guests before. But yeah, today we're actually going to talk to an athlete about it. And I haven't played pickleball yet, but I'm going to have to start because my guest just brought me an awesome gift, my first ever pickleball paddle. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Jenna Hessert to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming down, and excited to dive into your story.
Hey, Mike, excited to be here.
Yeah, we've just been chatting a little before we press record. We know a lot of the same people and seem to run around in similar circles. So I don't know how we haven't bumped into each other yet, but it's good to sit with you. I'm glad you sent me a pretty impressive resume to talk about. Before we dive into that, though, I mean, current life right now, what have you been up to?
So working for an oil and gas company is my main full-time job, and then I joke that I have multiple part-time jobs. So this job funds those jobs.
Yeah.
So pickleball, CrossFit, a bunch of traveling, and just really enjoying being in Oklahoma. I've been here, it'll be 3 years this summer.
Okay.
So
what do you enjoy so much about being here?
It seems like the perfect sized town. I grew up in a small town, but I really I mentioned I like to travel, so you guys have a decent airport, but which is nice. I came from West Texas, which has nothing, but I love the community. I love the people here. You can get anywhere in 20 minutes, and it's a pretty active community. I like that. I mean, it's always growing, and there's always something to do.
Yeah. You mentioned oil and gas. Have you always kind of worked in the oil and gas industry?
Yep. Same company, EOG Resources, for 8 years now.
Okay. I have a friend who works for them down in Odessa, Midland. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's been with them forever as well. I usually, when I drive down to New Mexico to play golf twice a year, and I usually stop off with him on the way down. It's a huge company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, based in Houston, pretty big, offices all over the U.S. Mm-hmm. So started with them out of college or grad school in Midland, and now here in their Oklahoma City office.
So that's why you ended up coming to Oklahoma City, was for a job.
Yep.
How did you feel about that at the time?
Man, I actually did love West Texas as much as I give it a hard time. Again, the people make it.
Yeah.
And so I was really sad to leave that, but I was ready for a new adventure and ready to check out Oklahoma.
Okay, it's cool. So, as you mentioned, you have multiple part-time jobs. Pickleball is a huge
thing for you, takes a lot of it's probably something you find a lot of zen and peace in.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's kind of a couple of buzzwords, but that's what sport does to people. And also you're a CrossFit coach as well, big into the athletic side of things. Were you fairly into athletics from a very young age?
Yes, I was raised only child, so I joke that my dad made sure I could throw football really well, have a great spiral, could fix anything, and also did dance and all that. So, I was always into sports, soccer, track, tennis. My mom played D1 tennis at the Air Force Academy. So come from get the genes from her.
Yeah.
And I was just raised on a tennis family. So.
Oh wow! And was Dad an athlete too?
He was a multi-sport athlete. He didn't play a sport in college. He also went to the Air Force Academy. He was a fighter pilot. So not a sport, but still pretty intense.
Pretty big like family legacy to live up to,
just
right?
A little
Dad's
bit.
a fighter pilot, Mum's a college tennis player.
Yep.
That's awesome. I mean. Oh, God, I've said this multiple times on the podcast, and I'm going to speak it into existence at some point. One of my life bucket goals is to get a hot seat, backseat ride in a fighter jet. So I'm still working on that. I got plenty of time left, hopefully. Full Top Gun. So did Dad travel around the world quite a bit then?
Yes, they both did. So both my parents are lieutenant colonels in the Air Force. They traveled a bunch, and I was actually born in Germany while they were stationed overseas, and then moved around a ton with them when I was younger, but mostly ended up in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so that's where the love of travel comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep.
And you didn't want to go down that route of being in the Air Force?
I joke with them that I served for 18 years, being a military brat. So I wanted to kind of do my own thing. I have great respect for the military and anyone that's in it, but kind of wanted to pave my own path.
Okay, cool. And obviously, your only child, Dad teaches you how to fix a lot of things and throw a spiral, but there isn't much room back, 18, when you were being a kid growing up, to be a female in the football world. So no doubt you follow. Mum's like, you're going to play tennis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
So they supported me, pursuing tennis. I played a bunch of junior tournaments. My dad was my actual tennis coach, so he coached me, and then my mom was the one that traveled with me to tournaments.
Okay.
We had a small family tennis business growing up. That was my main job. I got my teaching certification when I was young, so we all did it together. It was our family thing.
Yeah. So that also ties into why you coach CrossFit now, because you've always kind of coached something from a young age.
Yeah, I take a lot after my parents. They did a lot of recruiting for the Air Force Academy, so they mentored a lot of kids. So I'd like to think I was around two of the best coaches, in my opinion. And so I learned a lot from them, and that's my love of coaching.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on like kids growing up now. Do you think that every child growing up now should spend time in the military? Or just around that kind of structure to give you, obviously it's giving you your work ethic, and your parents did a great job of doing that.
Yeah, I think the work ethic and the respect, the honesty, integrity, that was huge. That was growing up for me. I remember one time I had a really bad tennis practice, and I was frustrated, had a bad day at school, and I tossed my racket on my bag, and my dad made me run laps until I would never do that again. I've never thrown my pickleball paddle, but it's circa that miracle moment when the coach is telling them again until they get it in their heads that they're playing for something greater. But that's important, I think, to understand that sportsmanship and integrity. So they definitely they taught me some great lessons.
Yeah. So the older you get, you're thinking high school and college. That's the route for you, and you don't want to go in the Air Force. So what are you thinking? Like, what are your interests outside of sport? And the dream of becoming a professional tennis player might still be around, but someday the reality kicks in, right? For most of us, that's not going to happen. So, what's the route from there?
I was very fortunate. I worked hard in school. My parents taught me to do my best at everything. Whether my best was, last place in a tournament or first, or a C on a test or an A, you do your best. And so I worked hard in school. I had very good grades, and so my original plan was to go, D1 tennis, play in college for 4 years, and then see what happens. Get a good education. That was kind of my backup at that point, and then pursue that path. But definitely go to college and play a sport. And at the time, the sport was tennis.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go to college?
I went to Yale University.
Pretty big time, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you had the grades for it to go to Yale too.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of pressure on you? Kind of not to play, but like from an academic standpoint as well?
No. So the how I ended up going to Yale, I was playing tennis and I started to get a little burnt out in it. As you get more competitive, the culture within the tennis world, it gets a little cutthroat. And I really, I missed having kind of that team aspect. I was always part of a team. And I decided to, run track with some of my friends just to do some cross training. And I ran track my junior year of high school and ended up making states in the 400 my first year. And I was really excited. It was, it was great experience. And I remember my first ever track race, I ran the 100, which I had no business running. Found that out. But I crossed the line, and I don't even remember what place I finished. I think I was dead last. And all the girls hugged each other across the finish line after they were done. And that was wild to me because in tennis, you have mortal enemies. You don't like the person that beats you. They don't like you if you beat them. And I loved that. And so it was such just a refreshing experience. And so that was my junior spring. And so that summer, as I'm looking at colleges to get recruited for tennis, my dad was the one that actually looked up Yale's track times and Harvard's track times. And said, "Hey, Jenna, I think you could run for this school, some of these Ivy Leagues if you wanted to." And so totally on a whim, I emailed all the Ivy Leagues with my track times from one season and went on recruiting visits to several of them, was talking to Harvard coach, Yale coach, Brown coach, and got an offer from Yale.
Sick.
Yeah.
What was like the reasoning behind kind of dad just saying Ivy League? Like, what was that instead of because generally the Ivy League teams aren't the greatest teams athletically, right? But like other than there's obviously who's the best D1 tennis team right now?
Yeah, or
track team,
right? Yeah, you have like Oregon's amazing track team. Right. I looked at Penn State for tennis, Villanova for tennis, so some PA schools, and I think at that point, I knew he could see I was getting burnt out a little bit on tennis, and I knew, I wasn't doing tennis full time, wasn't doing online schooling. So at that point, I kind of knew I probably wasn't going pro. Yeah. And I think my parents just saw how much I loved track, right? Nice. Yeah. And they've always been great about giving me options but letting me decide. Yeah. And what really ended up happening is if I ask you right now, do you want to go play tennis? You'll probably say yes, right, for fun. If I ask you, do you want a max effort sprint of 400? Answer's probably no.
Absolutely not. I just had lunch.
So, yes. Yeah. So I kind of, I guess, at 18, I'm proud of myself for making a mature decision. But I think I thought, this is the time let's see how fast I can run for 4 years. Yeah. And I can always go back to tennis. Yeah. Again, pickleball that wasn't in the picture right now, but I thought this is a time to run track, and man, Yale, what a great opportunity to be able to go to that school.
Yeah. Tell me about that first day on campus then. What's that like?
It still hit me that I'd walk around and I'd have those moments where I'd think, man, I'm at Yale. This is pretty freaking cool. I always compare it, and my friends give me a hard time, but it's very much like Hogwarts. There's houses just like that. I was put in Silliman. We joked it was Slytherin. We're not the bad one though. But it was fun. I love the community, the camaraderie. I think it's 85 or 90% of Yale students stay on campus all 4 years. So I lived in the dorm all 4 years, ran track all 4 years. I loved it. Yeah.
What's some of your best memories? Or best stories or worst memories? Tell me some times from spending 4 years at college.
Oh man, the Harvard-Yale game is called The Game. That's every year, the 4 years there. That was a great experience. We lost every time I was there, but we always got off the week. It was the weekend before Thanksgiving, and Harvard students always had to go back to school, and so it was a really big bragging chant that we didn't have to go back to school on Monday and Tuesday. And at the Ivy League, that's like a really, really big dig. Yeah. But I love that experience. I actually joined a sorority there, Kappa Kappa Gamma. It was great, not your typical Southern sorority. We did a lot of charity work, community stuff, academic groups. And then I really found my love of geology at Yale. Okay. That's where that started.
Yeah. before you find your love of geology, what was the plan at school? What did you think your major was going to be?
So one of the things I loved about Yale is you can come in undecided.
Yeah.
They're a liberal arts school, so they, variety of classes. And I loved math and science. I just enjoyed that. So I originally started down the environmental engineering route. That was kind of let's take the prereqs, let's knock those out. But I started with math and science classes mostly.
Okay. And then that leads into your love of, how did you find that?
So my first environmental engineering class, I enjoyed it, but it had a lot to do with wastewater and sewage.
Yeah.
And just might be my opinion, but that's not a really exciting field of study. And
sounds terrible.
Yeah, I was thinking, do I really want to study sewage for my entire life?
Yeah.
So started to have some second guesses, and one of the guys on the track team had the same path where he started off environmental engineering and switched to geology. I said, hey, Jenna, why don't you take a geology class? Take this one called Global Tectonics. I think you'll really like it. Well, it was sophomore spring I took that class, so I had all my prereqs done, and that class goes to Barbados over spring break.
Sick.
We stayed right on the beach in cabanas. Our professors are there. We're snorkeling, obviously doing a lot of really hard, intense work. Sure. But man, when you're sitting on a beach, in Barbados, hanging out with all your fellow students, discussing corals and snorkeling, I said I could be a geologist. This sounds great. Let's do this for a career.
Yeah, I happily do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so that class is known as the Gateway class in our geology department. I've loved my geology classes ever since. I took pretty much every geology class Yale had to offer. I've gotten to, because of geology, I did research trips to San Salvador. I spent a summer doing research in Africa. It's been incredible. I've loved every second of it.
You said that was the Gateway class. What was the other great experiences you've had? Then you mentioned obviously traveling in Africa and El Salvador, but what's the other? Was that the peak of hey, I'm on a beach snorkeling, or have you done that since?
Oh, I've definitely done it multiple times since.
Good.
Yes.
They didn't trick you then.
No. Now, I ended up in West Texas, sitting in front of a computer most of the time, so maybe a little bait and switch. But no, it's been an incredible experience. One thing I loved at Yale, you have small classes, but my mineralogy class, there is me and two other students working with a professor. So you get a great education there. It's really hands-on. The group's really close-knit. So I loved that aspect of the geology department at Yale. The professors were incredible. And then I even had an opportunity. One of my professors was working on a project in Namibia and Angola. And he actually needed me to fly out early. He had some paperwork that he had forgotten, so I flew out early and ended up traveling around and got to see Victoria Falls, went whitewater rafting on the Zambezi River, and then spent about a month with two other grad students in Namibia doing a bunch of research there on paleomagnetism, which is the movement of continents. Yeah. Nothing to do with oil and gas, once again. I got to go on a safari. It's been incredible. It's taken me so many places, and I love being able to appreciate when I travel, the places that I'm at.
The one thing that kind of comes to my mind is when you think of geology, it's also the layers and the history, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever dove into that stuff? Have you seen Graham Hancock's series on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse?
No, but I've heard of it. Okay. Yes.
That's the stuff that fascinates me, because it's kind of you're digging down, you're finding all this cool stuff. And
yeah, I always like to say, if I describe my job, regardless oil and gas, I am putting together a puzzle 10,000 feet under the ground. Yeah. That's the rocks are telling you a story, and you have to figure out what they're saying, and I love that.
Puzzles is a great way to explain it to me and other people who have no idea about geology. But that's obviously extremely valuable to an oil and gas company too, which is why you'll always have a job.
Yes, hopefully.
Hopefully. I think you will, yeah. Cool. So you graduate Yale, and you said you go straight into working for EOG.
Yale and then Texas Tech.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, so why did you decide then to go to Tech?
So I... Actually, through tennis is how I ended up kind of in oil and gas and then Texas Tech. So as I mentioned, I still continue to teach tennis. So even though I was running track, tennis has always been a part of my life. And I had a connection of one of the students that I taught. His dad works at Occidental Petroleum, an oil and gas company in Houston. And so through that connection, I was able to get interviewed, had an internship in Houston. That put me into oil and gas. And I loved it. I loved, again, the kind of teamwork. I'm working now with engineers. You're getting to do a puzzle, but then you also get to find out if you're right or wrong when the well is drilled. So I really enjoyed that fast-paced environment. And as you might imagine, Yale is not necessarily a oil and gas school, maybe a little bit on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So since I knew I wanted to go into oil and gas, I had to go to probably a little bit more of a southern-focused school. My roommate for my internship, she was a petroleum engineer at Texas Tech, and she got me connected with the structural geology professor at Tech, and he actually used to run ultramarathons and was a very big athlete. And she told me, I think he's a little intense and a little crazy, and I think you're a little intense and a little crazy. I think you'll work well together.
Should be best friends.
Yes, and in grad school for geology, it's a lot more about the project and the professor that you work with. And I visited Tech, and I loved it immediately. The joke in Lubbock is you either Lubbock or leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing there other than the university, right?
But the school was great. So I really am very fortunate. I like to think I almost got two experiences. I had Yale, which was a very unique experience, but there was more people probably in the library during football games.
Yeah.
Now our hockey team was incredible. Yeah. We won the NCAA championship my junior year. Tech was the other side, right? So I got to throw tortillas on the field during football games. A lot of fun. But so I got to kind of experience
the full
both.
college experience.
I like to think so.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone wants to ask you about like college experience, you feel like you have more advice and more experience than most.
Saw a wide spectrum.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I've been down to Lubbock a few times, and I haven't been to a game there, but I went there for golf once, and then just kind of driven through and seen the stadium looks sick because it's in a bowl, isn't it? But anyway, so you go there, you hit it off with your professor. What's the project you do that year for your master's degree? Yep,
so it's a 2-year project, and it was focused on structural geology. I wanted something that was out in the field where I could, do both kind of lab and field research. And I worked on the Arbuckle Anticline. So I actually spent a large portion of my time, even though I was at Texas Tech, in Oklahoma, in southern Oklahoma, around Davis.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Yeah, I got very familiar with those roadside cuts.
How many Arbuckle pies did you have?
Several fried pies. Enjoyed stopping there. My friends now, anytime I take a road trip from Oklahoma to Fort Worth, I point out all the road cuts, and I have my favorite road cuts. So my friends now, Jenna, here goes Jenna. She's going to talk about this road cut and this road cut. So it's a good time now.
Yeah,
it's a good road trip conversation.
Yeah, they already know it's coming.
Yep.
So you're doing this grad thing. Kind of find that your love for it, and are you still coaching tennis down in Texas Tech or no?
Actually, yes. So I coached at Lubbock Country Club.
Okay.
So still teaching tennis, and but I missed track. I missed the weight room. I missed again, tennis is a very solo sport, and I missed that team aspect. And one of the guys that worked at Lubbock Country Club, he did CrossFit.
Okay.
And this was still when CrossFit it's like Zumba. It's a fad.
Yeah. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah. I'm good. He convinced me to go to one class, and I instantly loved it. And that's where my CrossFit career took off.
Okay. What did you love about CrossFit then? Other than, I guess, we've talked a little bit about community. There's that aspect. But then obviously there's part of you that's an athlete as well. And nothing challenges you like yourself in CrossFit.
I love the competition. When I was little, my dad and I, we'd race to the car, race up the stairs, try to throw the trash in the trash can. I mean, everything was a competition. And it was more whether or not the win or lose. It was just competing. I love competing. And that's what CrossFit is. It's just the love of competition. And it's also just positive people. I mean, you typically, you don't find miserable people choosing to do burpees. That's just not, burpees are miserable enough. You don't typically also add in misery on top of that. So I loved that aspect of it. It was just positive people that love competing.
Yeah. And every day when you jump in the CrossFit gym is competing because you're competing with yourself.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
Right?
It's, are you better than the you yesterday? Are you 1% better? And again, like you can have a good day, a bad day there, but you showed up, and you know, we always say, make that the best hour of your day.
Right.
And part of me too, you know, my path, I feel like sometimes I pick challenging paths. But I enjoy that, but it also CrossFit gives you confidence. You know, I am in the oil and gas industry, which is typically a male dominated field. But man, when you go and get up at 5 a.m. and crush a workout, and you're deadlifting and racing, and you're around people that support you, and then you have to go make a presentation at work, you're like, I got it. That's easy.
Right.
I can do this. So it definitely, I've seen it build up my confidence. And then as I've gotten into coaching it, I mean, especially females in CrossFit build up their confidence. And that's a really exciting thing to be a part of.
No, you're totally right. When do you then do your first CrossFit event?
My first CrossFit event was in West Texas. I competed just in an individual competition. And had a great time. Ended up placing in the lower division. But I loved it. You know, I like the individual competitions. I've done that a couple times, but I've enjoyed the team competitions more. That's a lot more on the communication. There's a little bit more strategy to it. I kind of like that side of it. And again, success is sweeter when you share it, right?
Oh, 100%.
So,
yeah. What is your kind of favorite part of CrossFit? Like, I mean the workout, as far as obviously community is great, but like, what is your favorite? What are you the best at, do you think?
I'm the best at running.
Okay.
Which
makes sense.
Yeah, kind of a given. It's great now too, because most people here don't know that I'm a track athlete, and most CrossFitters hate running.
Yeah.
And so whenever there's a running in a workout, and if it's a new person, they're like, "Man, you're kind of weirdly good at this." I'm like, well. Yeah, I ran for 4 years in college. Sorry.
I'm a runner in college.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I enjoy the cardio aspect of it. I'm not a good gymnast, but I like that there's something you can always get better at. You know, there's it's very humbling every day, but you can always work at something.
Yeah, for as long as we've been chatting for now, there's a reoccurring theme, and you did say it a minute ago about you just like choosing the challenging path. What do you attribute that to? Like, who do you think where does that come from, and why do you keep doing that?
I don't know. I think I truly am a real extrovert. I like meeting new people. I'm the person on the plane that I enjoy having a conversation with someone. Now, I do notice when they put their headphones on, I'm like, okay, I'll stop talking. They're done now. But yeah, I think it's, like I said, I think being an only child, I've had to adapt, and my parents prepared me really well for that. And, you know, being in new situations, it doesn't make me uncomfortable. I think I actually thrive in new situations and seeking out adventure, because you never know what you can do until you try. But I've also, you know, that there is that fear of failure. I'm very fortunate that it's, you know, it's okay to fail, and that doesn't necessarily hold me back. And I hope I can pass that on to others, where it's okay to try something and fail, because you might not fail. And if you fail, is that really the worst thing that happens? Yeah.
The coach in you, right, wants to kind of pass that on and clearly keep that as a core lesson to whether it's tennis, pickleball, or CrossFit, like teaching people. Because I think kids grow up today, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Like, none of us like losing or failing, but it's just a mind shift of like, no, it's better because am I better than the person I was yesterday, right? You kind of switch your mind to think that way, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't mind losing today because I know I've got a little bit better. Exactly.
It's the switching your mindset from, you know, are you okay being a big fish in a small pond, or hey, why don't you go check out that bigger pond, and you might be a small fish for a while, but you also could end up being big fish.
Yeah.
Or you could, you know, meet other big fish that are just as cool as you, if not better, and surround yourself with those people. You know, they're going to make you even better, and hopefully you're going to make them better.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So you finish up grad school at Texas Tech, and then that's when you go work then obviously for EOG, and then slowly, a couple of years later, you end up getting a job in Oklahoma City.
Yep, I was 5 years with EOG Resources in Midland, working there, really enjoyed it, and then was ready for a change, and a transfer spot came open in Oklahoma City, and they moved me here, and I've loved it ever since.
Yeah. Were you coaching CrossFit before you moved, or did you start that when you got here?
I was. I coached at a gym in Midland. Really enjoyed that. Became really involved in the community there. And then when I moved here, I had a coworker that actually moved here ahead of me, and she told me, hey, you got to check out COTA. They're a great gym, great community. And man, they're incredible. They have their own. I was certified to coach CrossFit through the larger CrossFit affiliate. They have their own coaches development program. It's a 4-month program, and they take you through kind of their expectation, ideals, goals, coaching methodology. And so I did that. Worked out with them, went through the course, and then started coaching with them here.
Yeah, was that Bryce and Jared? At HQ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's they've been on the podcast. It was a long time ago at HQ actually, before we did video. I have to go back and listen to that one. It was a while ago. Yeah, those two. Because it's funny because Jared come from the golf world,
Yep.
and it's not someone you think who's going to be savage doing ultra marathons and lifting weights, but he is.
Yeah, so Jared, he ultramarathon, lifts weights.
And then Bryce, obviously on the other side too.
Bryce, military, so actually Air Force background as well. And so they're amazing leaders of the community, great coaches, great programming, and really I feel like when I moved to Oklahoma, that became my community. Yes, work is great, but the people that I met there, that solidified this. I can make Oklahoma my home.
Yeah, and you continued to compete this whole time as well?
Yes, so I've actually had multiple surgeries. I tore my hamstring senior year of college in track.
Yeah.
Not fun. So
while running?
In my last season.
Oh.
But I got back into shape with CrossFit, and then I actually had shoulder surgery from the years of tennis. So recovered from that, and then I had to have knee surgery from pickleball. So weirdly, none of my injuries actually have come from CrossFit. CrossFit's actually helped rehabilitate me and keep me strong.
Yeah.
So on and off competing through all that, but slowly transitioning more, I'd say, competing on a team, and then working towards kind of staying in shape, training for pickleball.
Yeah. So when does pickleball enter the kind of chat?
Yeah, so I loved tennis, but that shoulder surgery really put me back on the serve, especially. It's a lot of overhead motion. And I was kind of bummed because I loved tennis, and one of my friends said, hey, I think you might like the sport pickleball. And my parents had talked about it. And again, it's a trend here that happened with CrossFit. I'm like, no, it kind of looks lame. I don't think so.
A bunch of old people playing.
Yeah, it's fine. And we actually had a group at work that would go hit together once a week at lunch. Okay. And that was just a lot of smacking the ball and almost more like therapy.
Yeah.
It was great.
An excuse to have a beer.
Team bonding. Yeah, it was good. So I started playing probably during the COVID time, I think, when a lot of people picked it up. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. And I entered my first tournament with some friends, and I had no clue what I was doing. Ended up winning the singles tournament at an amateur level, which qualified me for nationals at an amateur level. I didn't even know it qualified me. I got the notification. I don't even know what nationals is. And so I slowly started playing amateur tournaments. And so when I moved to Oklahoma City, I kind of kept that up. I just started moving up in pickleball. There's levels. And so the highest amateur level is 5-0. It goes up by half a point. And so I just slowly started. I started at 3-5, 4-0, 4-5, and then 5-0. And I won a couple 5-0 tournaments in mixed, women's doubles, and singles. And so one of my friends said, hey, why don't you just play a pro tournament, see what happens? Right. And so my first pro tournament, was in Texas in the spring of 2022. So it was my first pro tournament.
Okay, so fairly recently. Then.
Yes.
Yeah. Did anyone know when they got you into pickleball? Did they know that you played tennis before?
No, most.
Or was it like a surprise, like the running part?
Yes, I think most people, my close friends knew, but people that I play, because everyone always asked in pickleball, since there is a lot of people transitioning from collegiate tennis to pickleball, they ask where I played in college. My answer is I ran in college. Yeah. So then everyone automatically assumes, okay, she didn't play tennis. Yeah. I had a tennis racket in my hand since I was about 8. You
just didn't ask the question.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah. So I joke that it's my secret weapon. They're like, man, this track athlete has really good hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? People don't ask the right questions, and slowly talking to you now, there's a lot to you, right? There's a lot of things, like you said, you have a lot of part-time jobs, and
yes.
CrossFit, tennis, pickleball, running track, geology, and all the other stuff. I'm sure there's plenty more too. It sounds like you're guilty of really taking on a lot of things because you just want to do more.
And I enjoy it. I mean, I find I'm happiest when I'm very busy.
Okay.
I feel like I actually perform better when I have my plate full. And I'm very fortunate. I love absolutely everything I do.
Yeah.
There's not one thing that I would trade or give up or do less. I love my job. I love my coworkers. I mean, even, I joke that I sit in front of a computer all day, but it's a puzzle. Again, my coworkers are great. And even my job, I've gotten to travel to California to study rocks. I've gotten to travel to Banff in Canada to study rocks with my job.
Yeah.
It's taken me some incredible places.
Have you seen that skit, the comedian? He's like, I like rocks. Have you seen that? Yes. How many times have you seen that?
A
Way
lot.
Too many times?
Pretty much all my friends have sent it to me at some point. Yes.
If you're listening and you haven't seen that, please find it. I don't know how you find it, but it's a guy who's on stage and their panel asking him questions, and he's like carries around. Do you like I like rocks. I got
Yes.
one in my pocket.
Yes.
Oh, it's the greatest thing ever.
I think geology has some of the best puns or the most puns.
Yes, for sure.
We really don't take anything for granted.
Yeah. 100%, right?
Yeah.
You got just an entire book of dad jokes.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about, because I have no idea, and I'm sure people listening have no idea either, about like what the professional level of pickleball looks like, since it's kind of recent in Oklahoma City in the last few years, and obviously we have Chicken and Pickle, but now, we can get into that and kind of obviously your side of things, what you're launching as well, what you've launched. But what does that look like for you as a professional athlete now in the pickleball world?
Yeah, so I like to compare it either to, if people are familiar with the tennis circuit, or actually probably be more comparable to the golf circuit,
okay.
Where there's tournaments throughout the year that are located at different places across the U.S. The U.S. is the hub for it. Australia, it's getting pretty big there. But a lot of players that are top, we have several Canadians that are top, some people from Germany and some Australians and a few other countries. But it is very much similar to the golf circuit, where you have bigger majors, smaller majors. You have to have enough points, pro points, in order to get into the draw. So, the top athletes don't need to play all the tournaments. And then the tournament structure is based, you have the singles, so individual, right, just like tennis in that sense. You have mixed doubles, so a guy and a girl versus a guy and a girl, and then same gender doubles, men's and women's doubles. And so each of them plays throughout the week, and then championship Sunday, they have the finals for all of the tournaments. So it's very much a kind of you have to set your own schedule. There's not a set season. You're not assigned to a team. So that's where, as a pro athlete, until I'd say you're like the top couple in the world, you are your own typically coach, your own travel agent. But because of that, the community becomes very tight knit. So once a month, I get to meet up with friends that I've made all across the U.S. and we meet at these tournaments, and we're playing against each other, with each other. A lot of my women's doubles partners, I've played against them in mixed or another women's doubles, and we have a great battle, and then we decide, hey, let's team up and see if we can play well together in the next tournament.
Is there ever an opportunity for you to not work and do this full time?
Not right now.
Okay.
So the financial side of it, the tournaments are fairly expensive to enter. And even if I'd say you probably have to medal, so first, second, or third, every tournament to end up making some money. But, there's sponsorships. It is growing. My current sponsor, Ace Pickleball, they're incredible. They're great. But again, it's not let's go back in time where like golf was years ago, where the top, 5 to 10 athletes in the world, they're making it a full-time job.
Right.
Most other pickleball athletes that say they do it full-time also work at a country club. They teach on the side. Okay. They're running camps. They're doing lessons. Yeah. And then there's several of us that still have a day job. Yeah. And again, I'm very fortunate that I really do love my job. So, yeah.
You mentioned the paddle that you gave me, and you mentioned there your sponsor, Ace. Tell me about what that was like when they reached out. Were they your first sponsor?
No. So I started with Selkirk, which is a bigger pickleball company, and they were great to start with. And then one of Ace's employees, she does a lot of the marketing, social media. I've played with her, and she told their owner, like, "Hey, I think you should get Jenna. I think she's an up and coming." This is before I won my first pro medal. Yeah. And she's like, "I think you'd be a good team." And they're based out of Charleston, South Carolina, and the owner is a former tennis player, and talked to him, and we set up a 1-year contract, and they've been great. So I was really fortunate. It's a smaller team, but it's quality paddles, and if I could call the owner right now and tell him, hey, I'm on a podcast, he'd be like, that's awesome.
Oh, sick.
So it's a great team to be a part of.
Yeah, well, thank you for the gift, because now I have no excuses.
Exactly. You have to get on the court
now. Tell me about that first pro win and the successes you've had since you turned pro as well.
Yeah, so I've reached several fourth place results in singles. Typically, tennis players have a better time transitioning to singles. It's more similar. Doubles is definitely more challenging. It's a very different strategy and more variables, right? More people on the court. So in singles, I made the finals back in April in Cincinnati and lost in the finals. And then I made the last tournament of the year. I actually wasn't even going to be able to make it potentially because of work. So it was a last minute decision to go up to Chicago in December and play the indoor national championships. And my flight landed in Chicago at about 1 a.m. And I was supposed to play at 8 a.m. And man, I remember thinking, I can't control this. We're just gonna make the best of it. I remember walking through the Chicago airport and it was totally empty. Christmas music is playing. It was actually really gorgeous and peaceful. And I remember thinking how lucky and fortunate I am to do this. I used my vacation hours from work to go play pickleball. And that's pretty cool. And so I just had this kind of attitude of gratitude and thankfulness. And I just said every point's an opportunity. We'll just see what happens. And I made it all the way through to the finals and played on Championship Sunday and won in a tiebreaker. And my opponent was so gracious. It was a really fun match. Hugged each other afterwards. And man, it was a really satisfying end to my pro year last year.
That's really cool. Has mom and dad got to see you play?
They have, yes. They've gotten to see me play in person a couple times, and then they watched. The match was on ESPN Plus, so they got to watch the finals online.
Yeah, that's kind of cool to be like, hey, even though they raised you as a tennis player, they probably didn't think you'd be playing pickleball, but now they're watching you on TV. It's a really cool moment.
It's kind of come full circle, yeah. And again, I thought, hey, I could play tennis my whole life. I joke now, it's kind of right and wrong at the same time. It's not tennis, but it's still a racket paddle in my hand.
Yeah. Are they competing too?
So they play tennis a bunch. I don't think I could ever convert them. Okay. But they do still play. They've started to slowly play pickleball more. Yeah. They were the ones that actually first introduced me to it. But I think my mom loves tennis.
It's gonna, there will be inevitably be a transition at some point, but I'm sure they're gonna play tennis as long as they can.
Yes.
So tell me about then the opportunity that you've seen in Oklahoma City then to launch this new league that you're launching, or have launched, sorry.
Yeah, so pickleball, as everyone knows, it's growing. I think the favorite quote that pickleball players like to say is, it's the fastest growing sport in America. Yeah. It's all we can tell people.
It's true though, right?
It is true. Yeah. And so, man, it's and I joke too, it's a little bit like CrossFit, where once you're in it, you're addicted to it and you love it. So I am a member of both cults. But yeah, there's, pickleball is growing, and I think it's a really easy entry sport. You can have a pro player play with someone that literally just grabbed a paddle and has never walked onto a court, and you can have a fun time. So that's really unique about it. So it brings people together from all walks of life, all ability levels, all ages. The number one girl in the world right now is 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then people always think, it's senior citizens that are playing it. Yeah. But not only that, we have a senior league that's called the Champions League. So it's a 50 plus. We have senior pros. So again, it's accessible to everybody. So here in Oklahoma, I have my group that I train with. The other guy that I hit with, his name's Chris Hayworth. He's one of the top 10 singles players also in coming up in the world. He's top. He's right here. Yeah, he's top 5 on the APP tour. I'm top 10. We play mixed doubles together. So he's tennis player, converted pickleball player. So we have 2 really good pros in Oklahoma, and then we also have about 3 other players that also play pro in Oklahoma that no one knows about.
Yeah. Who are those 3?
So Chase Holderman also plays. He's I joke, he's one of the few that's a CrossFit and pickleball player.
Yeah.
So he plays pro. Cale Hammond, his first name's Brian. He's in Tulsa. And then a girl, Alex Moody, that just played her first pro tournament down in Florida at the same one that I was at. So we have 5 pro players here. And with Oklahoma, we only have 1 pro sports team. right? Which, Thunder, super fun games. But there's an opportunity now for another pro sports team.
One that we actually watch, right? Because there's
That's fair.
baseball and
But
soccer and Tulsa and baseball and hockey, but no one really watches them.
Right,
so.
and there's no major.
No, one that people take notice of.
Exactly.
Sorry, the rest of Oklahoma team sports.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. We could get a football team here, so people don't cheer for Dallas. I'd be okay with that. But I think the market's there where we don't have a ton of pro venues to go watch pro athletes, and we actually have the talent here. So there was a league that was started in Arizona where they brought in the pro players from the area, and they basically put on like a showcase, and they have a team, they set up a league, and it's been incredibly successful. So instead of saying, hey, let's go to a Thunder game or let's go watch a baseball game, you're going to go watch a pro pickleball league. It's team oriented, and so the teams still play doubles, but you have matches against each other. And it's been highly successful, and it's really entertaining. If you've never watched a doubles pickleball match, the ball moves so fast. We call them firefights when you're swinging the ball back and forth, paddle back and forth, and the ball's flying across the net. It gets pretty intense. It's more similar, the energy, I would say, to like an indoor volleyball match versus tennis. There's a lot more chirping. There's, the court's smaller, so the energy is pretty intense. And that model's been so successful, I thought, man, we could start that here in Oklahoma. And so we've created, myself, and I've had several other people that have helped with the project and the league, the Oklahoma Premier Pickleball League. And that is based out of Prairie Ales. They've been gracious enough to host us.
Yeah. And you had your first event? No, the weather ruined, didn't it?
So we postponed it. Okay. Yes, so our first opening night was supposed to be last Monday, but it's this Monday, January 29th will be our opening night, and it'll be a 7-week season.
So every Monday for the next 7 weeks. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Okay, and does it cost money to come and watch it?
It's $10. Okay. The proceeds go to the players in the league, and you get a free beer sample with it.
Yeah, and how many games will be on each night, and what's the league look like?
Yeah, so there's 4 teams. We have the Wolves, the Barracudas, the Jaguars, and the Sharks. Okay. So you can cheer for your favorite team or favorite animal. And there's 4 matches that are played each night. So each team will play. You'll see, say, the Sharks take on the Barracudas, and it'll be 2 men's doubles matches, 2 mixed doubles matches. So each team has 3 guys and 1 girl. And so if a team wins 3-1 or 4-0, you'll just watch the 4 matches. If the team split those games 2-2, we're going to have something called an Oklahoma Showdown, which is a singles match to 21 points, and every player only plays 4 points, and you rotate.
Oh, nice.
So you might have a guy matched up against a girl, a guy matched up against a guy, the 2 girls matched up against each other, and so that'll be kind of like the tiebreaker match.
Typically, how long does a match take?
So a single, in a tournament, a single match probably takes anywhere from 15, at most 30 minutes. Okay. But that's usually you play, if you're familiar with tennis, you call them sets, but we call them games in pickleball. You typically play best 2 out of 3 games to 11 points. You can only win points on your serve. Since we're doing 4 total matches, we're just going to play 1 game to 15. Okay. So I'd say a match against 2 teams would take about an hour to get through 4 games.
Yeah. What's, obviously this is kind of a new venture and stuff for you guys and something that's super exciting. And, I'm not surprised after listening to you talk that you've started this and been a part of something, because clearly you're very intelligent and switched on, but you also have a love for sports and competing, which is back to what you said with your dad. It was always a competition with something. Mm-hmm. You're a lot more competitive than most people, but I love that. I love people who are competitive. I love that drive, and I think everybody should somehow learn how to develop that drive, even if they're just competing with themselves. Mm-hmm. Competitive people are just more fun to be around, unless you lose and you don't like to be around competitive people, but that's up to you. Where do you want this to go? Where do you want the Pickleball League to go and have this kind of sustain and have a legacy, I guess, for pickleball in Oklahoma City? Yeah,
so one, bring awareness to the talent that we have here. I would love to make Oklahoma City be considered a pro pickleball hub. I think it's a great location. It's central U.S., so available to get to multiple different other destinations. But I would love to just bring awareness to the talent that we have here. again, and get more people involved in the sport. Again, if people think it's just for seniors or it's just a silly game, have them come and watch and introduce them to the sport and say, this is fun. I could play this. And then the other aspect of it is I would love for this league, as I mentioned, it's $10 a ticket. We're looking to get several sponsors. We have an apparel sponsor that's based in California, actually. So she's providing us with jerseys. We have an online store set up. Some of those proceeds also go to the league. But I would love for this league to fund the pro players that play on it, fund their pickleball careers. If it could provide some funds for them to go play several pro tournaments. And especially, again, obviously I'm biased on the female athletes, but this is an opportunity to get more females in the sport and say, hey, if you play in this league, it'll fund your ability to go try a couple pro tournaments. You might surprise yourself. It gives them that confidence to go do that. And so I'd love for that, to start there, and then ultimately, again, have this be a hub, grow it, add some additional teams. And if on Monday nights, if you tell, hey, we're going to have a boys' night out and we're going to go watch pro pickleball, and that's what you do on Monday nights in Oklahoma City, and have it be a staple of Oklahoma City.
Yeah, yeah, why not, right? Because there's really not much that we do on Monday nights in Oklahoma City anyway. You mentioned kind of the men's and women's pickleball. Is the ratio kind of very skewed towards the men's game then, men's side?
It is. I think there's a lot more male athletes in the pickleball world. I'd say especially singles, and I really think a lot of that is because, again, singles players typically have come from tennis or are starting to. And, as I mentioned, I got burnt out with tennis prior to college. I think a lot of women do tend to get burnt out. It's intense. It's tough. And I'd like to, tell everyone that's listening, pickleball is not tennis, and I still love tennis. I'm watching the Australian Open right now, but the pickleball community is so supportive, and man, they just create such a great atmosphere. Like I said, the girl I played in the finals, the one I lost to, and the one that I beat, we still message all the time. We say hi to each other at tournaments. Like, we actually are friends. Yeah. And so I think there is a little bit of that transition that potentially maybe it's a little bit easier on the male side of the circuit. And then in general, I think this is true for all sports. It is more tough for females to get sponsorships. But I will have to say, most people that watch pickleball, they think women's doubles is the most exciting out of all of them because it's the fastest. Yeah. It's the most intense. So that's really where I love pickleball, is you can pretty much play on an even playing field, mixed doubles, men's and women's. I think there's an opportunity there to have, all the prize money is equal pay already, which is great. Women aren't having to fight for that like they've had to do in most sports. Most televised events, they don't just televise the men, they alternate, men's, women's singles, which goes first, the different storylines. So it is really exciting opportunity for women. So I think it'll grow and it'll get there as the sport continues to grow. Yeah.
And there's two main kind of governing bodies, right? Two main, is that right? The right word
there's
for
two.
it?
Yeah, there's two tours.
Two tours.
There's the PPA and the APP. Okay. And again, this kind of goes with any sport. Like, I compare it to golf. They have the competing tours. There's the international one, and hopefully as pickleball grows, there'll be a consensus. Eventually you will have to have one governing body, but yeah, that's it'll get there. Yeah.
Is there any kind of main differences between the two, or are they just basically just two different leagues?
There's the APP is the one that's been around a little bit longer. I am a top 10 pro in the APP. Okay. I play most of their tournaments. They've been great. I've really enjoyed theirs. The PPA, they've tend to be, I'd say, maybe a little bit flashier. Okay. They have aligned themselves with the MLP, which is the team governing body. So there's like a third entity, but they're having merger talks, issues. Some pros sign with one or the other, so you can only play one. I can still play both. So it'll get there. There's not one. Depends on how big the tournament is. One will have more prize money than the other, but again, they all vary. But it'll get there. Yeah.
Back to tennis. Who do you look up to in the tennis world, and then what are your thoughts on the tennis Netflix show that's out at the moment? Season 2's been out now, right?
Yes. Man, I'd say I grew up watching Andre Agassi.
Yeah.
He's just, man, a class act, and I loved how he fought for every point. I still remember watching his last match. I mean, it almost brings tears to my eyes. He was going through back pain. Man, he's a legend. And then, Roger Federer is just, I think he always was so composed on the court. It seems like, obviously, I've never met him. It seems like he seems like a great family, good father, good husband. So I'd say those two probably most on the men's side. And then, I loved Serena Williams' fire. Yeah, she always fought. You can never count her out.
Yeah.
And she's had multiple times where she's, been unseated and won. Yeah.
For the Netflix thing, is it realistic to watch it? Because when I watch the golf one, there's obviously certain things I'm like, it's made for TV.
Yes and no. They obviously dramatize parts of it, but yes and no.
I kind of like that guy from Australia, who nobody likes.
Yes.
Right? I think he's great. There hasn't been a bad boy in tennis since John McEnroe, right?
Yes.
So people need a bad boy in tennis, and he is that bad boy in tennis.
Yes.
Finishing up, back to, I guess, you currently playing, and really you haven't been professional for that long, so you have a long way to go. You're a coach. You've been a coach your entire life. I mean, you must have, you obviously being a coach, you see the value in coaching. What are your coaches like?
Yeah, so one, I'd say, Bryce and Jared are great examples within the CrossFit community that I'm a part of. They really do lead by example. And then in the pickleball world, there's a lady based in Florida, Lee Whitwell. She just transitioned to senior pro, but she's taken both me and Chris under our wing. And she's been, her on-court IQ is incredible, and she's so supportive, and I love her mindset. And she was on my sideline my whole finals match. So she's been instrumental. And then I'd have to say, for the kind of on the business side, the OPPL, Carol Rowles, she owns the OKC Punishers, which is the kind of senior pro pickleball league that is based in Oklahoma City. And she's been really helpful and supportive. I'm really excited, for that partnership as well.
Yeah. So for people listening, how do they? Do you guys have a website for the league? How do they go buy tickets? Kind of like for the next 7 weeks. How can people find you, and how can they come out and get involved?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram. It's OPP League. So OPP, you know me, if you want to remember that. But yeah, OPP League, and all the information's on there. Tickets will be at the door, so cash or Venmo. And as we get rolling and it grows, we'll have a full-blown website. But we're starting there, and I think it should be beneficial for both the pro players here in Oklahoma and just the city of Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, I wish you all the best. I'll put your personal Instagram in the description down below, as well as the OPP one, so people can go check that out and follow you and reach out if they need any CrossFit pickleball advice, or if they just want to talk rocks. They can talk rocks with you as well.
Perfect.
I'm excited to see this grow. I need to come by and check it out. Now, like I said, now I have a paddle, so I have no excuses, but I need to come and sit and enjoy it and take it all in and learn about it, because it does feel like a great community and a place to be a part of. And there's a lot of crossover, I think, with probably golfers, tennis players, and CrossFit as well, and athletes, just to be around it. And there's beer involved too, so
exactly.
Why not? But yeah, thank you so much, Jenna, for coming in. I really appreciate it. And so for people listening, we will catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffees really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffeeford.net, and then on Instagram at diffeefordlincoln.
This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.